Have you ever just stood and looked out at the ocean and felt that mix of awe and maybe just a little bit of fear at how huge it is? Well, we're going to take that feeling and crank it up to 11. We're about to explore a world where there's nothing but ocean. I mean, really think about that. Not just a city on the coast, not just one country, but all of it. What if our entire planet became one single global ocean? So, let's walk through what would actually happen, step by terrifying step, using the real science of our world as our guide. It all starts with this, a simple but kind of chilling idea. The very concept of a shoreline, that line in the sand that defines our continents, our countries, our homes, is just gone, vanished. Everything you've ever known as dry land is now just more water. Okay, but wait, before we dive into the deep end, literally, we have to ask a pretty basic question. Is this even possible? Like, where would a planet drowning amount of water even come from? The numbers, they're just staggering. All right, so here's our planet as we know it, a balance we're all used to seeing. It's about 71% ocean, 29% land. And that little slice of land, that's everything. Every mountain, every desert, every single city. To get rid of that is a huge, huge task. And this number, this is what really puts it all into perspective. To swallow everything, even the tippy top of Mount Everest, the oceans would have to rise 9 kilometers. I mean, just think about that for a second. That is higher than most commercial airliners fly. Just look at this chart. The difference is, it's insane. If we melted every last bit of ice on Earth, every glacier, every ice cap, sea levels would go up by maybe 70 meters, which, don't get me wrong, would be a total catastrophe. But compare that to the 9,000 meters we'd need. It's not even in the same ballpark. So yeah, the big takeaway here is that this whole scenario, it needs an impossible, almost magical amount of water. But hey, this is a thought experiment, right? So let's just pretend. Let's say, poof, all that impossible water just appears. What does our planet turn into? Suddenly, the world we know is just gone. It's replaced by this endless, unbroken sheet of water. There's no destination. There's no shore to swim to. The whole idea of land is just something for the history books. And this is where things get really weird. This contrast. From space, our world would look absolutely beautiful. I mean, a perfect, peaceful blue marble. But down on the surface, for anyone left, it would be a complete nightmare. Just a terrifying, endless ocean stretching out in every single direction. Okay, so the second the land is gone, a chain reaction kicks off. And the first thing to go, the most immediate collapse, would be our planet's entire climate system. The engine that runs our weather, it would be completely and utterly broken. You know, we don't really think about it, but land does a ton of work for our climate. Forests, they soak up CO2. Soil helps regulate temperature. All that land reflects sunlight back into space. And the continents themselves, they're like giant walls that break up big storms. And now, all of that is gone. So here's how that cascade happens. First, without any land to reflect sunlight, the dark ocean just soaks up a massive amount of heat. Then, that heat gets trapped, superheating the whole planet. And the final step? A world of constant global superstorms. We're talking about hurricanes the size of old continents just raging forever with nothing in their way. With the climate in total chaos, the very next domino to fall is life itself. And you might think, well, at least the fish will be happy. But the reality is way, way darker. The entire ecosystem of the planet is all connected. For anything on land, the end would come fast. All the plants drown, then all the animals that ate those plants starve. And us, without farms, without solid ground, without any resources, human civilization would just crumble incredibly quickly. So what about the oceans? You'd think they'd be fine, but no. As you can see, it's a disaster there too. See, a lot of marine life depends on nutrients like iron and phosphorus that wash into the sea from the land. When that stops, the whole cycle breaks. Phytoplankton, those tiny microscopic plants at the very bottom of the food chain, they start to die off. And when they go, the whole food web goes with them. And so does most of the planet's oxygen production. Okay, so the planet is now actively trying to kill you. The food is gone. Is there any way out for us? What happens to the last humans floating around out there? I mean, it's the biggest question, right? With no ground anywhere, where could humans possibly go?
our creativity, our ingenuity, it's facing its final biggest test. At this point, we're basically living in a sci-fi movie. We'd have to dream up things like massive floating megacities, or maybe underwater habitats, artificial islands, maybe even escaping to another planet. These are the last desperate ideas of a species on the very edge.
But let's be real for a second. The cold, hard truth is this. Without land to mine for metals, to manufacture parts, to grow food, how could you possibly build and sustain any of that? Without a stable planetary base to work from, our civilization would probably just fade out. A tiny flicker in the long history of the planet.
So let's jump way, way forward in time. Millennia after the last humans are gone, what is Earth like now? The storms would eventually calm down a bit. The planet would find a new, very strange kind of balance.
And this is what that new normal looks like. A deep, global ocean. The weather is still extreme. And whatever life is left, it's probably sparse, maybe clinging on around deep sea vents. It would be a shadow of what came before. And you know what the biggest difference would be? It would be quiet. So quiet. All the noise of our civilization, the cities, the cars, the voices, all gone, replaced by just the sound of wind and water. A quiet, empty planet, just dreaming in the dark. So what's the point of all this? What's the big takeaway? I think it forces you to realize just how much we take for granted. That solid ground we walk on every day, it feels so permanent, so real. But when you zoom out to a cosmic scale, you realize it's actually incredibly fragile. It's only here because of this delicate balance of climate and geology. So look, a global flood like this, it's pretty much impossible. But thinking about it is a really stark reminder of two things. First, the immense, incredible power of the ocean. And second, just how fragile our little spot on this rock really is. Because at the edge of every single continent, the ocean is always waiting.